right? We used to a special Independence Day. I actually put this. I was debating about putting this up on my Facebook post, but I used to live in Windsor, Ontario, and so they have the best fireworks because what they do is on July 1st, they'll celebrate both the United States and Canada. Will do their big fireworks show in one big thing. So it would be millions of people sitting along the river. This is pre-pandemic, obviously, watching the fireworks. So so for me, I always kind of look fondly at this time because it reminds me that we're not that different no matter who we are. And that fireworks show in Windsor was for me, always reminded me of that, because again, you have that many people sitting on Riverside Drive or driving from across like Ontario or even Detroit, even though that's not necessarily the nicest neighborhood across from the border, they still go and they'll still watch the fireworks when they come up. So it's always, so I always kind of look at this fondly. I know people have I've been reading my Facebook, like it's a different thing, but yeah, I remember that. And I always enjoy this particular weekend. Pardon me.
Yeah, it's always fun. We enjoy fireworks and parades, and kids love the free candy, and you're always getting candy thrown at you from parades and whatnot. It's great. It's a great time.
Yeah. So
our dog doesn't like it very much.
Well, no. I can understand why a dog would not like it.
Yeah.
All right. I crazy human beings and the crazy fireworks and the crazy whatever, and
loud noises and flashy lights.
Yes. So, he's just like, I don't know what's going on, but you guys are nuts. And that's probably what the dog is thinking. The dog's probably not wrong, but that's neither here nor there. It's been a while, bud. What have you been up to?
It has been, yeah. Just moving forward as best I can. I just had a new issue of The Offspring come out at the end of June. So less than a week ago now, issue 20. Issue 21's coming along. I've got 5 pages already penciled and the cover already ready to go. It's just moving on forward, especially in summer, where my family and I are heading out to Outer Banks in a couple of days. So I'm trying to get as much done as I can before we're incognito or incommunicado, whatever N word you want to use, for about a week to be able to just do nothing, which is not something we do all the time.
Yeah, yesterday it was hard for me because that was my day. I did nothing because it was weird because I think I suffer from workahol, Dave. I think my alcohol of choice is work.
Sure.
I realized, like, what do I do? Like, I didn't really know what to do with myself. So I just wandered the city a little bit because it was like, well, I'll find something to do, I guess, or maybe I won't. But I basically went from the southwest to the northwest, which Calgary's a huge city, like in terms of like landmines. So I did that, and it just one of those moments. I just like, I don't know what to do with myself. I need to figure out how to relax better. I don't know.
Yeah, usually I'll pop open a book or I'll sit and watch a movie or something that I know will get my brain working a little bit, and then sit there for an hour and a half and do that. I usually have something to, like, my thumbnail stuff that I do for my books right there next to me. So if something, I'll get a flash of something, like, let me write that down so I don't forget. So even when I say I'm not working, not doing anything, it's always happening up there,
Yeah, no, it always does. I am right now. I am reading. Actually, I'll show you what I'm reading. I'm reading this. It's my first Renegades by Marissa Mayer. She's really good. And I finally am watching The Boys. Like, I've read the comic, but I'm finally actually watching it.
Yeah, they're doing really well. They're changing some stuff, but I think it's done really well.
It's true to the spirit of the book. Like, the only thing is that, like, the biggest two differences for anybody listening to this is this: Compound V is not in the comic, it's common as fuck. Like, in the comic, like, everybody's got it. Like, it's even from the very beginning. This one, it's a slower build. Also, I mean, the characters are much like, television has given them the ability to explore these characters in a lot more detail. And it's good. And some of the characters that were side characters have a little bit more meat on the bone, which I think is really good. But the spirit of the show is very much the spirit of the comic. So
my wife and I have been watching Umbrella Academy, also another one based off of a comic book. And it's been great. I think it's fun. It's hilarious. It's exciting. It's got all the stuff you'd want, and done really well. Where I think we only have one more episode to go of this season that they just put out probably a month ago, and we're burning through it. It's really good.
Well, my next series, if I do it, will be The Wheel of Time, because it's my first fantasy series. So I gotta like for me, even though I've heard mixed reviews at best, on about it, it's kind of like my fantasy. So I'm gonna watch that. Afterwards, I'll do one more, and then I will probably stop streaming for a while. It's just as a general rule of thumb, I'm one of those people that when they get into something, like we talked about off the air about openly acknowledging my crazy. Here's mine, right? I am not mature enough to deal with streaming for an extended period of time. I'm not mature. I just know that. I just know deep down. So for me, the story goes like this: back, remember the original Daredevil series? This is the last time I really streamed. That series was good. You going all night the first time. I think a lot of people did that. It's okay. Yeah. When it's Kill la Kill, the anime, you realize the problem might be you, right? I'm not. Again, I've said this in the past. It's not that Kill la Kill was a bad show, but it wasn't a streaming in all night kind of show. It wasn't that good. Yeah. I just had a problem, and I just. Yeah. I can openly acknowledge those things.
Yeah, I think that's step one, right?
Yeah.
I think too, though, there's so much out there now to be able to, like, Kenobi and Miss Marvel came out essentially at the same time. The next season of Stranger Things and whatever else is popular out there. I think people are starting to realize that the companies are starting to realize, let's put it out and people will watch it at night. But they're starting to put out so much at one time that nobody is going to be able to sit there and watch a whole episode or a whole season, 10, 13 episodes, whatever it is, in the span of 2 days, especially when they put out so much that has such a solid fan base. So I think that there might be like a diluting the waters kind of situation going on where people aren't doing the all night streaming, the episodes as much as they have been maybe a year ago.
Well, we're okay. Canada's kind of in a weird spot with the pandemic stuff, but you guys essentially are post. COVID's still going to be around, but at this point, life is for the most part normal-ish for you guys, normal-ish. So you're not going to go back to lockdown. So people are going out again and doing things again. So what I've noticed with the streaming services, they're quietly doing it's not quite the same thing, but they're quietly doing what television used to do. It's like they would release an episode in a day. Now they release it in the day. They let you watch it whenever you want to watch it. They don't care about that time slot. But right, what they're looking at now is they're looking at the fact that no one is going to be binging. It's not going to be as regular a thing, right? Maybe once in a blue moon, there's still going to be people that binge. Yeah. But even me, it's like, I like The Boys. 2 hours. That's it. That's all I give myself. 2 hours, right? And that's because I'm also going from season 1. So me catching up slowly, I'll enjoy it longer. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, and I think too that people know now, I'll eventually see. Like, there's some movies and some TV shows that when I heard about them, like, that'll be fun to watch. But now it's been 3 years and I haven't seen it yet because I know I'll eventually see it. It's not, my life is not going to be changed in any way because I haven't seen Wonder Woman 1984 yet. But I know that I will eventually see it. I'll eventually see the Suicide Squad. I'll eventually watch this show. Whatever it is, because I know, and if I was about to say it'll always be there, it might not. But okay.
It's not everything's like you. Again, we're not meant to consume everything as much as we're like even as creatives, like, you know what? Not everyone's going to like my Alice in Wonderland Greek mythology story. I know it's a shock to me. It hurt the ego just a touch, but at the same time, I mean, there's only so much time we all have.
Exactly.
Right. So, I mean, I would rather do things because life's worth doing, and that's kind of the thing, right?
Yeah, as a creator, you and I'm sure I've said this to you before in the past that I try to remind myself if somebody says, "Oh, that's not really for me." Okay, no problem. I try to remind myself that there are millions of people that love Star Wars. There are millions of people that hate Star Wars. So, okay, yeah, I'm doing it for me. I'm writing these stories because I love it, because I want to be creative. I want to get it out there for hopefully people to like. But if it's not your bag, that's okay, baby. Not a
Yeah,
big deal.
no, it's totally it. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, that's the thing. Like, you gotta, again, it's not for everybody. What you're hoping is to find your audience. I've been doing so the other big thing I've been doing is I've started an advertising little gig, right? Because like I can make videos, I can do audio, I have graphics, words. I've done lots of marketing and the last little bit for other people.
Yes.
Because I'm like, I like talking to people. I like hearing their stories.
Yeah.
Why not see if I can make a living doing that? And
Yeah.
I think that's a good thing, right? So I'm finishing as soon as I'm done with you today. I finish off the last little bit to hand into a client. It's my second client with the business. Well,
Nice.
third technically. So I mean, it's yeah. I did. I realized. I think the biggest struggle we have, and it just might sound like tooting my own horn a little bit, but it's not. It's just the fact that
Do it.
we,
Toot
we,
it away, man.
ladies and gentlemen, I am awesome and made of cheese. It's opposite. It's true. Oh, it's true. But what I am going to say is, we don't toot our own horn with our own work enough, and it's something I do. I realize and recognize that probably one of the biggest parts of the business that creators are neglectful is the advertising of their own work.
Yeah. There's that. You want to feel humble, in your work, even though you like it and you hope that it's good and all that stuff. And you hear, your mom tells you it's the greatest thing I've ever read. Thanks, Mom. I really appreciate that. But yeah, it's that level of nobody's going to love your thing as much as you love your thing. So you've got to get it out there. You've got to, be your own promoter. I 100% agree with you, because whether you get 2 or 3 likes or follows or shares on whatever social media it is, great, amazing. But if you're not sharing your own stuff, nobody else is going to share it. Yeah, I 100% agree with you.
Well, yeah, it's something I just realized. It's like it's that weird balance. Is you do need an ego a little bit, just to say that, hey,
yeah,
my shit's cool.
Look what I'm doing. Yeah,
exactly. You need that ego. Now on the flip side, there's a point too where you can be an obnoxious asshole about it. It's like, oh my god, I'm the greatest thing in the world, and then that's that, and then someone that's listening to this is gonna be like, oh my god, I'm going to vomit right now, and then that's like there's a line there, but you have. I mean, it's something I've just realized is like something I realized. Like I was thinking about like why I think everything can be in terms of just the money end of it for a second. I think all of it can be more profitable. I just think and I realized like why isn't more money being put in this? And then there's a lot of reasons for that. But I think the biggest thing is like what I look at now is, okay, pardon me, what am I doing that could possibly get in the way of me getting it out to more people? And I look at it from that perspective, because what happens there is, okay, eventually you come to the point it's like, I've done all I could. But that, I think, should be the goal with every project. I've done all I could to get it out there. I know how, dealing with whatever choke points I might have, because we all have our own, whatever those struggles are, right? But it's like, I look at that and go, am I doing that with each and everything I'm doing? Because it's the only guaranteed way to succeed, right? Or at least to give yourself the best chance to succeed, I should say.
Oh yeah, definitely. And one thing I try to do is, even when, even I have a whole slew of one-shots that I put out, I try not to forget about those one-shots as I'm moving forward. I've got all these great books that so many people have read and loved and said, hey, I really love this. What's the next thing you're doing? But there's still so many people. There's so many more people that haven't seen it yet. So to not forget about those projects and to consistently be, posting those on social media, or trying to get the word out of those, or making sure you have copies of those clearly for cons and whatnot, to be able to get those out too, I think is a key also. To the one shots for me are like a bridge to be able to get people to want to read something like The Offspring that's going to be 50 issues. And I, as an indie creator, I understand 50 issues can be daunting for somebody who, knows indie comics on some level and says, well, this creator put out 2 issues in 2 years, which happens sometimes because of the issues of creating as an indie creator. But to be able to say, yes, I've got 20 issues out already, and to be able to have that basis already, hopefully will get people to see when they read the one shots and go, oh yeah, I like these one shots. Let's see what's going on with these 20 issues of the ongoing that he's got going. And knowing that I'm, come hell or high water, going to get to 50 issues. Hopefully that'll be the bridge for people to be able to jump in and get the volume trades and all that kind of stuff to be able to jump on board. That's kind of my goal there.
Well, yeah, I actually like your path is interesting. Like a lot of the creators I interview that do comics are on Kickstarter or Indiegogo.
Yeah,
you're doing it kind of like the old school Jeff Smith, Dave Sim, Colleen Duran, James Owen way of I got my own little empire.
Yeah,
and I'm going to do it my way. And that's kind of what you're doing, man.
That's it. Yeah, I've been lucky enough to be able to have some. I'm going to give a shout out to. I've had some great editors. The editor I have right now, Ryan Crow, who does some stuff. He's starting a platform for himself also here in the next couple of months. I hope he's been trying to get the word out, but he's been invaluable in the process. So it's I always kind of say, tooting my own horn on some level, saying I'm a one-man band. But there have throughout these 20 issues and through the one shots and through the 4-issue miniseries and through the 100-page graphic novel that I put out along with Brian Menard from Dojo Kun Comics. Yeah. There has been people that have jumped on board and then said, okay, now I have to jump off to be able to get my own thing going. I say, great, man. I had you for these many issues, and I really appreciate you coming on board and being a part of this process with me. So to say that I'm doing it 100% on my own isn't exactly true. But yeah, essentially I'm sitting in the dark room at midnight to 4 o'clock on a Tuesday night, trying to get as many pages inked and done and plotted and lettered and as I can to be able to get a book out every 2 months. And as an indie creator, that's difficult. It's very difficult.
Oh no, absolutely. And again, you're not going to Kickstarter. You're doing this on yourself, and you got enough equity in terms of what you've done that I'm sure you have a loyal fan base that supports you, right? And you're doing your own thing. But so it's impressive. Like you kind of hit. I don't know if it's quite at that point where I kind of call I kind of think of business as a water wheel in the sense that when you're building a business, sometimes the water isn't coming to you, but when it eventually gets to when the machine's running, you're putting everything out, and then the water comes back when you need it to actually do the next thing, and you're just like, this is a wondrous little machine I've built, right? And I get the feeling that's where you're at. Like the wheel does turn the way you want it to for when you want it to. So at this point, it's just the time and the effort and the energy to put it out. Not so much that the machine has building. No, the machine's built. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Oh yeah. At the beginning, it was such a slow process just because I was new to the process, and it was such a learning curve. Anybody that, does what I'm doing in any kind of aspect of indie comics or producing or publishing any kind of content, the very beginning, if you feel like you're standing still, because what you want your next step to be, or what you want that next page, or what that next storyline is going to be, but you can't quite get to it yet because you're fiddling with formatting, or trying to figure out the format process, or trying to figure out what websites to put it on, or trying to figure out how often should I post, or those things, which is the social media is a full-time job in and of itself.
Yes, it is.
But yes, 20 issues in, and then multiple one shots and other things that I put in. I have enough content now that just getting, keeping that wheel going has been more fun now than daunting at the beginning. Yeah, it's like, oh my gosh, am I going to be able to do this? And then every time I finish a storyline that I've had planned for 15 years, every time I finish a storyline, I'm like, I did it. That storyline is in the can now. Yeah, now I can move to this storyline. What I'm really working on, trying to get to the next big 3-issue story arc from these 2 issues that I'm doing right now. So I have 2-issue story arcs going on, each for each of the characters, Will, Vince, and Sarah. And I am just finishing up Will's now. So knowing what the next 3-issue story arc is going to be, it's like, oh my, I can't believe that 20 years ago I plotted all this thing out. Changes have happened, of course, over the last 20 years. But the basic core of the story is there. Has been there for a long time, but to be able to know that I am going to be able to tell the story with these characters, to be able to see it and to be able to hand it to other people and say, I created this and I did it 20 years ago, and now it's, I started it 20 years ago and now it's, becoming a thing, is I won't say it's like holding my firstborn for the first time, but but it's a nice feeling.
Well, no, it's a surreal feeling. It's like, oh my gosh, this thing in my head's now real. Oh shit. All right. Yeah. And then on top of that, you're like, I always have like this weird thought sometimes whenever I do something. It's like, well, this thing that's in my head that I've always wanted to do, and suddenly it's real and it's out there, and you're like, was it really a dream? I mean, and I asked it like that because it's one of those situations where I have this belief with people that we all have things in ourselves that we see that are possibilities we can do. And I think one of the most, and it's not just art, it's anything in life you choose to do. I think there's an interesting struggle we as people, of those things in our head that we're trying to make happen versus sometimes what we have to do to survive and all the other obstacles in our way, and what we let rule us. And I think it's a never-ending struggle. But I actually tend to think that everything in our head that we can imagine ourselves doing is not only possible, but it's as real as all the other stuff. And maybe one of the biggest challenges in life is realizing that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I 100% agree. I think we talked a little bit about the getting over your own, or being humble, but also advertising for yourself. I think part of the problem is everybody has that one novel in their brain, or that one thing that they want to create that they don't get to, oftentimes because of a lack of confidence in themselves, or thinking they can't do it, or it'll take too much time, or or they can't do it now. I'll do it in a year when I'm done with this thing, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it really does have to do with like letting go of your own ego and having enough ego and having enough confidence in yourself to be able to go, I'm just going to create this thing, and I'm going to create it for me. And if other people jump on board, great, let's do that.
And folks, if you are watching or listening to this, we make this sound easy, it's not.
It's not. Oh no, it's not.
It's simple. Yeah. It's a simple concept, but it's hard. Yeah. I actually came up. So I don't really want to do like a full-fledged political whatever today. I'm sure we can go back and forth another day on that. But I realize, if I had to sum up, I think, and I think it's about this point. If I had to sum up I think the biggest problems in the world, I think it comes down to our own self-worth. I think that no matter what your political affiliation, religious beliefs, whatever the case may be, there is an expectation of what your role in this life is. And then there's that, I think for me, like the real thing I realize is there's that expectation there, but there's also that what you can imagine yourself to be.
Yeah.
Right. And I think the biggest struggle, I think the biggest reason why people don't necessarily achieve is they never have that battle. Something I realized, again, just like these are things I realized as a freelancer. It's all up here.
Yeah.
It really, as dumb as it sounds, it's all up here. You can make money. You can make money doing anything. You truly can. Right. But the thing about it is, do you truly believe that? Because if you don't, you ain't gonna make squat, or you'll right. And it sounds again, I'm making this sound easy. It's not. But I think if I were to sum up the reason why some of the things in the world are happening the way they're happening today, I think if I were to break it down to just one thing, it would be this: we don't value ourselves enough to fight for ourselves and our worth.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that as a teacher, having a little bit of insight into the public school system, I think one of the biggest problems is now we're killing and drilling them to pass a test, rather than giving kids an opportunity to be able to find those problem-solving, critical thinking skills, use their imagination and creativity to be able to produce themselves. I often hear all the time, well, public schools don't really produce anything, so why are we putting money into them? Why are we putting all this money into public schools? And my answer is, yeah, we produce well-rounded, problem-solving, critical thinking children who can hopefully move forward into your neighborhood and make your neighborhood a better place. I often hear especially older people, and I understand what they're saying, but they're like, why should my taxes go to public school? I don't have any kids in the public school system. Well, you live in the community, right? So you don't want to live in a community of not thinking people. right? So you putting your taxes in assures that the people around you will have your back when they need it, or be able to problem solve or critically think, or the people who become leaders in the community will be able to think critically about whatever the issue is. So I think that's one thing that we struggle with. I'm struggling with an issue in my own district that I work in, and I won't go into it, but it's very frustrating to be able to know that they care, that in some cases there's more focus on kill and drill for a test that nobody's going to look at. And it's in 2 years, nobody will care what that student got on that test. But what they will care about is getting out of school and not being able to solve problems, not being able to have critical thinking skills because they were too worried about kill and drill. And that's,
I actually, okay, so I have a unique look at your public school system. I live in, like I said, I have a unique tape because I live in both Canada and the United States.
Sure.
Right. And I was in Arizona, and so I've got to see their public school system in action there. Yikes. And I say that, and honestly, it's not the kid's fault. I think like this again. I think this deals with the self-worth thing too. Mm-hmm. If I have a student that can critically think their way out of the situation, there's a chance that they can actually do it better than I can. And I not to sound, again, ultimately, I tend to think that the systems are built in place. Your job is actually supposed to be, for all you teach, what you really do is give permission for students to go for whatever it is they kind of feel compelled to do. That's your real job.
That's giving them enough tools and giving them enough baseline of knowledge to be able to move themselves to the next step, whether it's in art, whether it's in being a dentist, whether it's being a construction worker, whether it's being a dog groomer, whether it's being a tightrope player, whatever it is, giving them a solid base, a solid knowledge base to be able to move themselves forward. That's exactly right.
Not even just the knowledge base, the confidence to do it too. They need that. A lot of people need permission to start. It's human nature.
Yeah, and I'll agree with you too that I think that most people see once they get out of 12 years of school, for pre-K 13 years of school in the States, and they say, okay, my learning is done. Learning should never be done. Lifelong learners are what we hopefully are trying to get out of, or make people realize that just because you pass that one test doesn't mean you know everything about that subject, or doesn't mean you know. So to be able to create a love of learning, so as they continue getting, whether they're 5, 15, 25, 50, 105, whatever it is, wanting to gain knowledge on whatever subject is they're interested in seeing, or something they might not know too much about, is I think where we unfortunately struggle also, because people think, I already graduated high school, or I already graduated college, I don't need to learn anymore, I'm just going to go do this thing and get paid for it, instead of, I want to get better and better, not even better at your job, or better at just knowing about your job or whatever, your career, but also getting just better as a human being.
I'm going to come back to that one. Because there is another side to that coin. I think does need to be dealt with. But I'm going to go with the first thing. The first thing I kind of want to talk about is this. Just speaking at, so the first time I saw illiteracy on a high school level was in the United States. Right? It was in the United States.
This is my surprise face.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. I said totally. And it was when I was shocked and amazed, like when I was dealing with it. Like I'm doing a course in the college in the area, and one thing, my college, the people that are in college, they all had their stuff, but people coming underneath me, some of the people I saw underneath me were like, you don't know how to, like, I remember there are a couple of individuals that just couldn't read.
Yeah.
And this is 16, 17, 18 years old. And the reason why, and that, now going back to where you're coming from, this is the other side of that coin. And I want to bring that example up to go like this. If you're going to school and you're not learning as simple a fundamental skill as reading, I can kind of understand where they're coming from. This is the other side of that coin. If those skills aren't being taught in a school system, if I've been in this system for 12, 13 years and I've learned all there they might be on, like, here's the thing, they might be onto something with they say, I've learned all I can. It's not necessarily that drive to learn has been beaten out of them.
Mm-hmm.
It's they're not going to learn it here.
Mm-hmm.
And they're right sometimes. Like, all right, I'm not, and this isn't just, and by the way, I'm not just going to pick on Arizona here. There's other states that have this problem too, right? Right. So I don't know if I can blame a student who thinks that way in certain situations, especially considering what I've seen from your system. It's like I said, I'm not what I'm saying. Yikes, right? It's like, it's just now that's not every education system. That's not every school board in the country, but it is a lot of them.
Yeah, I think that one of the problems is, especially now they're having a big issue with that. And clearly it was because of, the pandemic and because schools were closed down and teachers had to try to teach remotely and kids weren't getting on or didn't know how to get on and couldn't turn in this assignment. And a lot of times parents are working and they can't make sure they're getting on because parents are working. And I understand that. And I think that the whole country now, maybe in some over the world, is dealing with the same kind of issue. You have second graders who are still kind of at that beginning of first grade, kindergarten, beginning of first grade level, because for a year and a half, they never actually went to traditional school. And I'm not saying traditional school is always the answer. Oftentimes, traditional school can be a hindrance to some kids.
Yep.
But I think that one of the biggest problems that we have is the pressure put on teachers to be able to be magicians.
Yes.
We're not magic. If a student comes in refusing to listen or learn, and there might be a reason for that, a medical reason or a home life reason or a sociological reason or whatever it is, that a teacher is going to try to do everything they possibly can to be able to get that student to learn their ABCs or learn to read or whatever it is. But I think oftentimes the biggest problem, especially when you were saying how you understand how students get out of 12th grade and they realize, okay, now I don't need to do anything. I don't need to learn anything. As an educator and someone who came from, a family that's educators, my father was an educator for 40 years. And this is probably going to make some of parents that are watching this frustrated or mad. Education always 100% of the time starts at home. Mm-hmm. So whatever the home life is, however parents view education, well, you got to go to school because they're going to make you do it, or the teacher's the bad guy, or that teacher's so mean, or that teacher's whatever it is. When kids hear that, they start to feel like they're a victim, or they're being oppressed, or they're a slave to the school system, or whatever it is. If a student thinks a teacher is mean, it's because that student has done things 90% of the time. That student has done things to make that teacher have to discipline. And that teacher usually starts with, Johnny, please stop that. Right? And then Johnny keeps doing it. Johnny, I've asked you to stop. And Johnny keeps doing it. Johnny, please. Or what, what I mean? Building up and building up and building up until the teacher says, Johnny, you're out of here. I've asked you 37 times. Then you start having that conversation about, is there a reason Johnny can't sit still? Is there more of a reason than Johnny just not listening, right? Because there might be something more, not always. There might be something more to that. It might be something that was said or done, or chemistry in the brain, or whatever it is. And these are all things that teachers have to deal with every single day. So part of the problem in the States, for me anyway, or that I see anyway, is that teachers are often vilified. That how dare you make my kid sit and listen to you talk for 6 hours, which is not really what's happening. Good teachers, at least the ones that I've seen and worked with, will have the kids be more in charge of their learning than the teacher just sitting up there and talking at them for a long period of time. Sometimes it has to happen. But when you start teaching the responsibility that is the student's responsibility to be able to learn those things, then that's when hopefully parents will start to realize that the responsibility is also on them. It's not just, from 8 o'clock to 3 o'clock, my child is your responsibility. He's always going to be the parent's responsibility. And I think that's one thing in the United States, after teaching in 3 different states and seeing kind of the same thing happen over and over and over again. In my view, that's something that I think we really need to do better at.
So I'm going to take it a step further.
Yeah.
And then I think it's also the fact that parents are expected to be magicians too. in light of it. I think here's the thing. In one now I'm not going to belittle your job. This is the absolute like most cynical point of view of the job. You're a babysitter while parents are working, right?
So parents think that, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. But it's not just. It's not. I don't. Sometimes I think it's also the educators in the state that think that too. So, sometimes again, we're not like I'm just basing it on what I've seen in the curriculums from a distance, right? Right. Right. So what I think this is what I think, right? Because I know this is stuff you deal with too. Like, although, yeah, even during this, I'm sure this happened. Kid gets sick. What does the parent do? Maybe they can't stay home. Maybe they have a rent to pay, right? Maybe they don't have the ability. And depending on, and this was a problem before the pandemic. In the current economic state, it's probably even worse, right? So what do? You go out. If you go to work, you're fired, and your kid can't eat. So what do? You give them to you.
Yeah,
because they have no choice. They fucking have no choice, and they know it. And
give them some Tylenol and hope that the fever stays low enough to where nobody will notice.
Yeah, and that's and especially right now, you're like, well, what the fuck? But on the other hand, you get it because maybe they can't, right? Yeah. Right. And so I think with the current economic climate, as well as the current leadership climate in the United States, a lot of things are going to be coming to a head very soon. And I think by necessity. And one of the things that I think is coming to the head is this little problem. I think one good thing that came out of the pandemic is there's multiple different ways to teach and to learn. I think that's the one good thing that came out of it. But now, I think in light of also the current economic situations, the current like struggles that are going to be for the next few years, I almost think like the wheel in some ways has to kind of be reinvented. You're not a magician, nor are they. So where can we kind of meet in the middle so that everybody's not pulling all the rabbits out of the hat just to get through the freaking day?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I 100% agree with you. I think that there are multiple ways, and any good teacher will use all the the tools that they have to be able to make sure little Johnny can't memorize by kill and drill, so little Johnny has to do instead of just say. So to be able to use all those different tools, and I think that's one thing that the school system doesn't do very well is adapting to students who think differently. We're creative types, so we think differently. We see the world a little bit differently. And one thing I tell the students all the time, it's not my job as an art teacher is not to just help you draw pretty pictures. My job as an art teacher is to help you see and understand your world better through the elements of art, through seeing the things around you and knowing how to break those complex concepts down into more simple ideas so that you can start to build up from there. So anybody who says, oh well, art's a waste of time, they're not learning anything. They don't understand what art is, and they don't understand what music is. They don't understand what those things do and how they hold up society in a lot of places, to be able to have kids help better see and understand the world around them. It can be frustrating knowing that I was a student that struggled and trying to teach these kids, still teaching ELA, math, history, and science through the arts, and seeing these kids go, oh, Mr. Whalen, this is just like science class. Oh, Mr. Whalen, this is just like ELA. Or why do I need to write things down in art class? Because it's all connected. Because all those things through the arts are connected. You can use the arts to teach anything, everything, and to be able to have that be minimalized, right, and seen as frivolous is very difficult. It's very difficult, especially when I know that there's a good percentage, 20 to 25% of those kids, given the visual option, will take the visual option every day of the week. I think so.
Again, I'm going to take it even further.
Yeah.
You go out. You go out in the street. You walk down the street. How many billboards do you see? I mean, this is just reality, right? You go to a Starbucks. How much art do you see in a Starbucks? Even though it's all commercial, doesn't really matter. Really, art is art.
People don't understand the difference between fine art and applied art. Fine art is art in museums, dusty old museums that nobody wants to go to anymore, except for us creatives. But people don't understand that the arts is these computers that we're looking at right now. These these cups that have Mickey Mouse all over them.
Absolutely.
That copyright won't mess you up. Even just a Pepsi can or billboard, or you turn on your car radio. The radio needed to be designed. That's applied art. The music comes out of the radio is the arts also. So people don't realize how integral the arts are to everyday life. If there was a magic wand and said get rid of all the arts, we'd all be sitting in a field naked with nothing to do. We couldn't be able to sing. We wouldn't be able to watch cartoons. We wouldn't be able to do anything.
We'd be like that Simpsons cartoon where they had to wear those uniforms and they had been completely just shut down their personalities.
Yeah.
Right. Yep. And then art is like color into the world. It really is. Yeah. It adds whatever that looks like. But I mean, like I say, it's just the value of art is not just what you teach. Again, it's problem solving. In terms of me, I mean, I've been dabbling now for 1.5 years drawing. I'm almost good, Dave.
They're looking good, by the way. They're looking good. I noticed I try to like as many as I can. They're looking good. Good.
I can do expressions now. Although, like I said, I'm still 12. The evil eyes, made me realize. Like, I think I figured out also how to draw boobs better. Right? I mean, that's just me being an inner 12-year-old coming out. It's like, oh, I solved 2 problems with 1 stone. But anyways, but that all said, it's one of those things. I think. This is just my take, on take. Like the old George Carlin, they wanted people to be smart enough to operate restraints, but dumb enough not to not question them. Right,
that whole so ahead of his time, wasn't he? This was 30 years ago, 40 years ago.
Well, you know what? Well, even then it wasn't new. Like it's just in one sense, kids are smarter than us today because they have more knowledge and. How I keep up with it compared to what I knew, I don't know. But in terms of like he's talking about the critical thinking, problem solving skills, what I was taught and what they were taught now are completely different. And I'm not. In some ways, they got a better trade off, but in others, I definitely got the better trade off, and I can see it in terms of how they think. And again, a cynical part of me thinks this is all according to a certain design. A cynical part of me, but not so cynical part of me is, I think we've come to a point. Like I said, I think the next couple of years are going to be everything's going to be reevaluated, and I think by necessity because I think the system as we know it doesn't really work anymore. Right? That's just where I'm at, and. Like I said, and by the way, I'm not. This isn't just the United States. Canadians, if you're listening to this, it includes us too. But not everything we're doing is working either. And it's what it comes down to. What it comes down to is, I think, the necessity of how the world is changing is going to force us to reevaluate every particular thing, good, bad, or indifferent. You guys, as a general rule of thumb, as teachers, are underpaid and overworked. But that's the whole world. And I think there's just got to be a better way of doing it. And I think we're going to go back. I think in light of the next few years, we're going to go back to that.
Yeah, I agree. And I think part of the problem as human beings is we like to put things in boxes, right? This box good, that box bad, or even like I said, take it to the next level. This box good, this box evil.
Yeah.
And when the things in that box might not be evil, they might just be bad ideas, and that's okay. That's not evil. But I think that putting things in a box and saying this ism, whatever that ism may be, is our ism, and every other ism is evil or bad. And if you like that ism, you're evil and you're bad. I think that every ism has good and bad, not good and evil, good and bad. There are always bad ideas in every ism. So to be able to at this point, locking ourselves into an ism, whatever that ism may be, and saying this is our ism, and whether it works or whether it doesn't, this is the one we're doing, and it clearly does not work for everybody, for all of the people in that region or whatever it is. But to be able to start seeing these isms not as good or evil, but good ideas or bad ideas. And in every ism, there's good ideas and bad ideas. Now it's time to start pulling those good ideas from those isms that help people grow and learn and survive, not just survive, but thrive. And I think that's where, as a society, we go wrong, because they want the people up here, but they also want the people down here. And there's that in between thing. If they wanted us to be smart, they'd fund education better. If they wanted us to be healthy, they'd fund hospitals better. Or some sort of healthcare, they'd fund healthcare better. If they wanted us, you know what I mean, like all those things,
or even on the most fundamental levels, even funding farmers better. Go a long way.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They wouldn't stuff all these chemicals into, or make the not natural foods less expensive than an apple.
Yeah.
They wanted us to be healthy, they wouldn't do that.
No,
so
no,
it really is, and it's never an us against them. We just have to, as the core group of humanity, have to make better choices in who we let lead us.
Right? I fully agree with that, but this is so it's funny. I mentioned advertising at the very beginning. Do you know anything about ad copy? I should ask that question before we continue.
Yeah, I worked as a graphic designer for about 10 years before.
Okay. So when
newspapers and all that stuff.
So you must have a field day when you listen to the news today. Then you must have an absolute fucking field day when you listen to it, because it probably sounds a lot like your old job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What can we do to make you listen, and how can we make money off of it?
That's right. But the thing is, and the reason I bring this up like this, folks, is this. Ad copy by its very nature divides first.
Oh, yeah.
And the reason why that's important is when you're looking at selling to a particular market, you want to eliminate the people who are in your market from without your market. Yeah. It's actually if you're just advertising a product, it's actually a really sound strategy.
Yeah.
Right. But if you're reporting the news, or you're reporting an issue, that's not what tends to create a very divisive things. Like, one of the biggest things that I learned from the pandemic is not to fall in love with an outcome. I think we've had that conversation already, right? Yeah. But the reason why that's important is when I look at my Facebook feed, and we put things in boxes, that includes people. I have opinions that lean both to the left and to the right.
Yeah.
I have both.
Yeah.
I'm a big believer in fundamental freedoms. I'm also a big believer in certain social reforms.
Yeah.
Right. And I can find a way to kind of marriage those two things. I think it's called nuance. Exactly. Right. There's nuance. Right. I can have
black and white. Yep. It's not black and white.
No, there's no such thing as a black and white issue. It doesn't exist.
Someone who rails against regulations, and then, says, we'll put on your seatbelt so that you're safe in your car. That's a regulation to be able to keep you safe when you're driving a car, or safer. It's never going to be 100% safer when you're driving a car. Oh, seatbelt! I'm going to get a ticket if I don't put my seatbelt on. So that's a regulation. And to have those regulations in society is crucial. Now, where do they go too far? Where are those regulations?
No, that's called nuance. Right, that's called nuance. Right. So when we put people in boxes, and I've noticed this. So, like I said, I want to go to let's say like everybody knows what's been going on with schools lately, right? That's as much as I would like to say that, like, making a law banning certain weapons is maybe a good idea. My tendency to believe is that the genie's already out of the bottle. Even if you made that law today, that gun's been in existence for 75 years. You're not cleaning that up. Even if that's all you're going to do, that's not fixing anything.
No.
Right. That's all you're going to do. Right. But I will go on Facebook, and someone even watching, listen to this, I go, well, you have to, I agree. Maybe something should be done, but that's not enough at this point. So if that's all you're going to do, it's not good enough. And all you're doing is at this point just going after a very, very narrow way of dealing with a real serious problem.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So, but if I go on, certain people will be like, ban the guns, ban the blah, blah, blah. And if not, or other people will be like, I get to do what I want. If you don't like blah, 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 like, there's no compromise.
Yeah.
Right?
I think if I can be a little cynical about it, also, is I think that's by design.
Sure.
Because if it's not us against them, who are we supposed to know we're supposed to hate, right?
Oh no.
So
Oh,
I think that the problems have solutions, but then what is this politician going to run on? What are they going to run on? What policies are they going to run on if we fix the gun problem? They won't have anything to say.
oh,
It's
sure.
their fault. It's their fault for doing this. It's their fault for not doing that. This group didn't do enough. This group does too much. This group doesn't play ball. This group, whatever it is. So it's that level of, again, us against them. If they fix the problem, then they don't have anything to get us society mad about,
Well,
and that maybe gets them not elected again. You know what I mean?
or
So
or or at the very least, well, I equate it like this. I worked for a big company.
Mhm.
There's how do we put this? A bell curve in a big company. I'm sure you've seen it.
Mhm.
But the thing is, when a company gets to a certain size, or an operation gets to a certain size, there's a level of dysfunction that's tolerated in the system, because
Mhm.
it just by its very nature.
Yeah.
Because okay, if I can see a problem and you can see a problem, everybody else can see the problem too.
Yeah.
So the question then becomes, why is it there?
Mhm.
Sometimes it's as simple as it kind of works. Sometimes
Mhm.
it's that simple.
Yeah.
Sometimes. Now, in that particular case, I take the really dark approach. Somebody figured out a way to make money doing this,
Mhm.
and that's my
Yeah.
take on it. And because of that, this is tolerated.
Sure.
I actually the way I would deal with it is I wouldn't be going after necessarily the guns directly,
Mhm.
because I think there's too many of them. I'd be going after the company itself, because there's one company and there's
Mhm.
many guns. What's
Yeah.
easier to control? The one company.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think that's the entirety of the problem, but
Mhm.
if you want to take a real step towards solving it,
Yeah.
that's a good way to do it.
Yeah. And you can take it away from stuff that's so divisive. Like guns are very
Yeah.
divisive, of course.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
let's take it to another product. Eyeglasses.
Yeah.
Well, eyeglasses are ridiculously expensive. My wife wears glasses. I don't wear glasses. Maybe I probably should. I don't have 20/20 vision, but I can get along without bumping into things fairly well. But all of the eyeglasses that you see are owned, most of them, 99% of them, are owned and created by one company. They may have different offshoots, different brands of whatever the eyeglasses all are, but it's all owned by one company. So they can make the prices whatever they want to. And it's that kind of price gouging that we're seeing, with
Everything.
everything, every company, whether it's, something divisive like oil and gas or guns or cupcakes,
Or even a
coffee,
cup. Actually,
every
coffee is one of the best examples in the world. Do
yeah,
you know how much
yeah.
it actually costs to make this cup of coffee? It legitimately costs
3 pennies, I would bet. I bet nothing.
about 10 cents.
Sure.
We figured everything out in there, the cup, yeah, 10
Hmm.
cents.
Yeah.
I paid $5 for this.
$5 for it. Yep.
Yeah, so
They're
think about
they're
that.
laughing at us.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Yeah, no,
They're
now,
laughing at us.
yeah,
And
yeah, no,
when we take it, we
yeah,
go, well, $5 for a cup of coffee. I really like coffee, or whatever it is.
no,
Cupcakes, whatever, soda pop, whatever it is. Yeah,
yeah,
we've definitely, as the majority of just normal people, we've definitely set ourselves up to fail, and we've elected the wrong people to lead us.
oh yeah,
And we continue to elect the wrong, whether Democrat or Republican, it does not matter. We continue to elect the wrong people to lead us, whether they are people who do not have our best interest in mind and are just there to make money off of a lobbyist or whatever it is, or they're a group that comes in and does, want to do some things but are feckless and do nothing because they might not get elected, or they might not, they back off from bullies or whatever it is. So both groups are not getting the job done in any way, shape, or form. They're spinning their wheels and making money off of our inability to stop them. But we
well,
do have the ability to stop them.
no, we do. this is where we gotta look at ourselves honestly.
Mhm.
We're complacent.
We are 100%.
Yeah, like that's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
Even in spite of everything that's being taken right now, like next year is going to be brutal. There's no ifs, there's no ands, there's no buts about that. Next year is going to be brutal. And like I said, even though everybody's upset at the GOP right now, my bet is going to be it's going to be a Republican landslide. I don't think it's going to make a difference, but I think it's going to be a Republican landslide in 2 years.
I disagree, but we can talk about that later.
Yeah, we can talk about that later. Yeah, we talk about that later, right? But
I disagree, and I'm sure we both have points that would back up what we're saying. But yeah,
no. I don't know. I want to be very clear on that. I don't want it to be, but I don't. But the reality is, I can see. I'm going to say this. As I said this, I think in episode 803, I just on the audio.
Mm-hmm.
The United States essentially has this idea of what a president is, or what a leader is.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look really, really close, right? Biden, Trump, Obama, Bush, Clinton, and Reagan. Those are the presidents I've seen when I've been alive. They're more alike than they're different.
Yeah.
Right?
That's why they go to baseball games and hand each other chocolates and take pictures with each other with their their heads on their shoulders. They don't care about what their political party's differences are because they know they're manufactured.
Yes, by and large, yeah.
To get us.
Yeah. It basically, I mean, like it's basically a matter of like if you look at them and you honestly really look, I'm not saying they're exactly the same, man. But they're close. They're a lot closer than I think people want to acknowledge. So
I don't disagree. I think most Democrats would say that Biden was not their first choice.
No,
in any way, shape, or form.
Well, no, I'd agree with that. But again, if you look at him and you compare him, Obama, as much as I think he's the most different of the 7 I just named, he's still a lot like them. Right, he's just. I would go so far as to say he's a little bit more Jimmy Carter than the other. He has a bit of that aspect to him, but but he still's got a little bit. Like I think they all kind of derive from Nixon. That boy was a gangster too. There was no ifs, ands, or buts about that. That boy was a gangster, and that's and I say it like that because I think people don't look close. If they look close, it's like. They're not that different.
Yeah.
I don't get as angry about Trump as other people because again I can see where him and Reagan are almost the same guy. I can see
Reagan was very divisive. Reagan was very divisive. He was a little bit more tactful about it.
Reagan was before reality TV.
Exactly.
This is the thing. If reality TV had existed when Reagan was around, I think he'd be closer to this. And that's just my opinion. But that's where that's that I think that's the biggest difference. Now there's another too. Reagan was more liked than Trump. There's no doubt about that. But Trump's policies, their terms of their presentation, it's not that different.
Very similar.
No, very similar. So it's one of those things where it's just like you look at that and you kind of go, you know what I mean? So I think we picked the same guy.
Yeah,
and you always pick the
over and over again.
And up here, same. Look, my prime minister. But my prime minister is literally his father was prime minister.
Yeah,
like we have it's like much like down here. It's a family affair. A lot of the same things are brought up over and over and over again. You're elected, and here. In some ways, we're worse than you. Some people are lifelong members of a particular party. I'm voting for this party no matter what. Yeah. Right? Now, it's slightly different electoral system, but even so, it's still the same problem. Yeah. We're not looking to make a legitimate change because I think this is the other thing, too. Maybe, and again, looking at us in the mirror here, what would that look like? Like if we actually did change things? I don't think I don't think anyone has a clear idea of what that is.
We'd never be able to agree on what it would have to be big overarching changes, and then hopefully, because of the ripple effect of those changes affecting maybe minds and hearts, whatever that phrase means, to be able to make those changes, those big overarching changes would make a ripple effect going down, 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 to be able to I'm getting a phone call here, to be able to make people care or think differently about some of the things that are so divisive.
Yeah, no. Well, again, I think it would eliminate. You'd almost would have to go after the media, and I'd say that not necessarily how the media presents news.
I 100%.
You'd not so much that the news they're presenting, but how they're presenting it.
Yep.
I feel like again, and folks, I'm not kidding. Media, like mainstream media today, is very much like a television commercial. And even in terms of its presentation, they're telling stories, not necessarily, and they're not necessarily, and they're designed to create a certain reaction one way or the other. So understanding how those stories are being told, you almost would have to go back to the pre-1980s, and I right, like you'd almost have to. But again, at this point in the ball game, right? Like, I don't know. In one sense, news is obsolete right now. You can depending on the issue, you can follow a Twitter thread and get as immediate up to date information as you want. You don't need the media anymore either. That's the other thing about today. That's the hope, but we have to get out of the habits we've been developed for a very long time.
Well, I think one of the problems is, I'm sorry, go ahead, Josh. Continue.
Yeah. The only thing I was going to say is I don't think we're going to hit that point until it breaks.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest problems is that people fall in love with their station, whatever, MSNBC, CNN, Fox News, whatever it is, and only watch that. I try to watch all, and I'm not saying I'm doing it better or worse than anybody else. I'm just saying that I like to be able to see. I pride myself on being able to see all sides of the story, all sides of the issue, and then being able to kind of problem solve it myself. What would I want for my kids' future, for my grandkids' future? What would I want to see the United States progress towards on that issue? And then I, make my decision about it later. But I think so many people are watching those talking heads on one particular station, whatever that station is, and not doing their due diligence to be able to hear the other side, or be able to make sure they're saying the whole truth or not, and not withholding facts to make their idea seem more plausible, or making one side try to make one side look like they're a joke or ridiculous or whatever by laughing at something that had happened, instead of saying, well, why are you laughing? What's the issue? Why do you disagree with this? And I think that's a big problem also. I think that one of the things too is when any governing body tries to make a law about something, we should know what it is. And that's hard to be able to go on, but to be able to go, like, especially you talked about like the basic, just like news channel of the area. If there's the governing body of that county or city or state or whatever it is, and they're about to make something into law, we should know what it is, and they should be reading that law out to us and explaining to the people who may not understand what's being voted on, so that they months in advance, to be able to put that on social media so people can read that or listen to that at their leisure. We should be able to know what it is they're voting on. It should never be done, secretly at 3:00 in the morning, so that not everybody's there and they can vote on and get it all the way through, which unfortunately happens. But I think that the biggest problem is we are not informed enough. So there's like a sheet over what they're doing and what we know that they're doing, which is not even half of what they're actually doing.
Well,
for good or bad.
Yeah. Well, okay, let's go back to the magician magic trick thing a little bit. Part of the problem is everybody's got so much going on their plate.
Yeah.
Right. If you're doing everything you can just to survive, you don't have time to look at those issues.
Exactly. I 100% agree with you.
Yeah, right. That's part of it. Now, I'm not going to say that's true all the time, but definitely that's part of the reason. The other part is, and again, my own issues with the pandemic. No one investigates anything.
Yeah.
Right. No one. If you hear an idea, it's about buying an idea. If you buy it, That's it. There's that's the end of it for most people, and that is somewhat a human psychological thing. That's like it's in our nature. If we buy an outcome, that's it. There's nothing we can do. The only thing we can do as far as that goes is, again, be diligent, is recognize our own fallibilities. That also goes back to something we also talked about.
I use the term bias there also. I use the term bias.
No, absolutely. No. We all are. And hey, 100%. Like I totally not. I have my own biases. I say I'm politically an atheist. Like that definitely colors my own perception of things. But and I'd be lying if I said it any other way. But what I will say is, I think ultimately it goes back to this. It goes back to the boxes we put our ideas in. And the boxes we associate with everybody else. You can't. That is a habit, and the way to break that habit, the easiest way to break that habit, is a discussion just like this.
Exactly.
We don't agree on everything, but we listen to each other on everything, and that's important. We don't need to agree. We just need to understand each other.
Yeah, and it doesn't become a screaming match or putting flags up on your garage that have expletives on it because you disagree with somebody politically. Putting a flag with expletives on it on your street where kids play. Like, I will defend your First Amendment right till there's no breath left in my lungs. But there's also a level of common sense.
Well,
with these decisions that some people make.
Oh, I'm not against someone being new in their own home either. I don't necessarily want a kid to go down and say, hey, what's going on there?
Yeah. What's that flag on that guy's garage say? Well, what's that word mean, Daddy? Well, and me, the father I am, I'll explain it. He leans a certain way politically, and he thinks it's a good idea to have a big giant flag with a big middle finger and an expletive on it to display his political views, and that's his First Amendment right. Is it a good idea? Is it the right thing to do? I don't know.
Again, this also goes, and in all fairness to the guy with the big middle finger on his flag, maybe you have a good reason to feel that way. I can't.
Yeah, and his views might be valid, but the way he's communicating them.
Well, again, if you want people to listen, to truly listen to your ideas, I find you have to, like this. I don't necessarily have to dress up like I am admittedly crazy, but again, you have to dress up, but you have to be willing to talk. And when it's over, have a beer about it. Because really, I mean, I'm not going to, again, it's not always even about changing other people's mind. It's also just being about, okay, I'm aware of your concerns.
Yeah.
Right. And if I'm aware of your concerns, maybe I can find a way to take my crazy idea and make it go, okay, what if we do this? And you'd be like, maybe yes. Right. Or or vice versa. Maybe you have an idea I don't agree with, but you'd be like, and I tell you why, and you're like, okay, that's fair. How about we do this?
Yeah. The first ingredient to failure is thinking you're going to get everything you want.
Yep.
You're not, especially in a governing body for millions of people that all of them think differently about everything. Even if you're the same political party, even if you're the same religion, even if you like the same kind of TV shows or eat the same kind of cupcakes, you still think differently about those cupcakes, TV shows, religion, whatever it is. So for every person for anybody to say it's our way or the highway, you don't understand what a republic is supposed to be, what a democracy is supposed to be. And again, my humble opinion, to be able to force people into doing things that they don't agree with just because you think you have a reason for that being the right way. On any level, I think is
fundamentally wrong.
A slippery.
There's two things every person needs, and if a governing body does these two things, the rest doesn't matter. The first is this: everybody feels like they have a voice, and the way to do that is, again, to talk and to listen. That's it. It's not
always the key to success.
Yeah, that's it. But more than anything else. Society may not go completely my way at all. It doesn't have to.
Yeah.
But if it feels like I'm being listened to, I'm not necessarily going to be vehemently opposed to where it's going either. If I'm getting my ability to communicate or get my thing out, there's nothing wrong with that. Then it's really, as a whole, the system's right. That's the first thing.
Yeah.
The second thing is a lever to, and it's another communication thing, but take it one step further, is that also includes people at the very top. Where that doesn't just matter. It's not just you and me having a discussion. If you were Joe Biden, I could have this discussion with Joe Biden, even if it's in a limited capacity because of it. Again, the time I'm sure he has to sort of talk to every other motherfucker that has a complaint. But those vehicles need to be there.
Yeah.
Because if those vehicles aren't there, that's when protests happen, or worse. That's why they happen, right? It's no other reason. And again, it's not even about getting an agreement. It's about just understanding necessarily what's going on. This is the problem. What are we doing about it?
Communication, and I think I would use the word empathy.
Yep, it's it. It's all it takes.
Pretty simple, right? Pretty simple.
And maybe and just a touch of compromise everywhere.
Yeah.
Right. You don't need to. You don't need bend everybody to your will. You just need to be able. Okay, this is where we're going. And if people feel that way, and if people have those three things, right.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right that trying to bend people to your will, prohibition of anything never works.
No.
Right? Never works. Prohibition of alcohol, prohibition of certain kinds of intimacy.
Hell, or
the thing that we will talk about.
even last year was a good lesson in that too, and that's all we're going to say about that. It's a good lesson. It was a good lesson in that. It doesn't work. You can't do it that way. All you can really do is, okay, this is the information we got. This is the best we have.
Yeah.
And respect everybody and respect everybody's decisions.
Yeah.
And go for it. That's it.
Should there be regulations on we have regulations on drinking alcohol. You have to be 21. We have regulations on driving a car. You have to wear your seatbelt and get certain,
by the way, I'm sorry for our part in corrupting your youth on that one.
It's all your fault. But it's having those minimal. It's hilarious to me how certain political parties will yell personal freedoms and then immediately work to take away those personal freedoms. In yelling out because they're righteous or whatever it is, and that's just not how democracy works. Your ideas, your beliefs, go for it. You do your thing, but once it starts telling other people what to do with their lives, and I'll be honest with you. I'm going to be honest with you. This is not a popular opinion. Can I tell you a not popular opinion that I have?
Sure, go whatever you want.
I do not think that not wearing your seatbelt should be illegal. I do not think you can get tickets.
I actually agree with you, but I'll give you my reasoning for it, and it's this. My dad was a truck driver. Like, once upon a time, he was a truck driver. There's a story. For whatever reason, cars like pulling up in front of these giant trucks. I'm not sure why, because the truck wins every single time. Or if there is enough time, because this does happen, sometimes the truck will flip itself to prevent killing somebody.
Yeah.
If there's enough time, sometimes there isn't. So one particular instance, there wasn't enough time. And I remember my dad flattened the driver's side half of the car. He thought he killed the guy.
Wow.
He thought he fucking killed the guy.
Yeah.
Guy went to the right of the car.
Yeah.
If he had his seatbelt on,
might not have made it.
He wouldn't have made it.
Yeah.
There was no might.
Yeah.
He wouldn't have made it.
Yeah.
Right? He wouldn't have made it. There's no might.
Yeah. Here's the thing. And I agree. I hear everything you're saying. I think that as a 47-year-old man, I can make that decision on my own.
Yeah.
Now, would I make the decision to wear my seatbelt? Of course I would. And then making sure that kids are buckled in safely. Kids have their safety seats in. If you're 18 years old, you can make that decision on your own. But to that regulation again, if you're under 18, you have to have your seatbelt on. You have to be in a car seat. You have to whatever it is, because they can't make that decision on your own. We have to make that decision for them on some level. Not about everything, but on some level, to be able to make sure that they're not being affected by maybe choices that we make. So if you're 18 or over, if you want to wear your seatbelt, wear it. If you don't, that's your choice. And if you go flying through the windshield, you made your choice.
Well, if you're the driver, you're probably not flying through that windshield. What's probably going to happen is that wheel is probably going to hurt like a motherfucker.
Oh yeah,
right? Yeah.
Break your legs. But the passenger. Same thing. Passenger, same thing. If there's an accident and they have they hit something else, whoop, I don't know. There was a show, Black Summer, zombies on Netflix, and they were chasing in the cars and they hit something and this woman, whoop, and my first thought was, why isn't she wearing her seatbelt? You're in a car chase. Put your seatbelt on. But that's again, that's that click it or ticket. How come the state should not have to force you to wear a seatbelt, but the state should make sure that kids are as safe as they could possibly be in a vehicle moving 50 to 75 miles an hour on a highway filled with other cars.
Yeah. Well, I think, I just think it goes like this. I think especially with the way the seatbelt is designed, in some situations it's great, but in others it's absolutely fucking terrible. Yeah. And I think I was always a big fan of the X design on the seatbelt, like do an X, because it gives, it doesn't break anything when you do it. And that's, again, if you want to make it so that the seatbelt is 100% safe, that's how you do it, folks. But you make it like an X, because that way you protect. Because I have seen this get broken. I've seen the stomach get broken. I've seen lots of things just based on because there's no give there. There's give with the others. There is no give there, and that give's important. Yeah. But here's my unpopular. This is me being also Canadian/European. I think if a kid is old enough to go into a bar and do it, they can have a drink. That's my unpopular opinion for a lot. I think if you're old enough to make a decision and you can handle the consequence of your own actions, I don't necessarily think that should be illegal. Where it gets tricky.
That nuance you were talking about, right?
Yeah. It's the nuance, right? It's the nuance.
It's an individual person,
So I get that there's a universal standard. That all said, it's a very. There are people I have seen that are old enough to make their own decisions at 14. Then there are people at 30. I question how you are making your own decisions.
100%.
Right. So I say it like that because I want you to understand. I do understand why there's a universal standard, but there are some things in this world I look at and go, you know what? I don't like. Yes, it may not be the legal or right way, but I don't give a shit. Right.
Right. I agree that that level of learning and understanding varies from person to person. And I would say the only way to monitor that is to have a test on your driver's license or on an ID card. I passed my I'm able to drink. I'm smart enough to be able to drink test. Here you go. I know I'm 14, but I passed my smart enough to be able to drink test. Or I'm 30 years old. I didn't pass my. I'm not smart enough to know how to drink test, so I can't drink beer. But even though I'm 30 years old.
Well, but I and again, like, it's not that cut and dry. Yeah, but but at the same time, again, I'm from Canada. My family's European, right? Alcohol. I've had access to alcohol since I was a kid, and I don't.
Most European countries you can drink whatever.
Yeah. And honestly, most of them don't have the heavy drinking problems, right? That's a very Canadian and American thing.
Do you think that is like a psychological and emotional and physical effect of the system that we have set in place, whether it's monetarily or economically or monetarily, economically, or the work system that we have set in place that gives us that level of stress and not being able to handle the day-to-days?
I think it's more in the fact of the expectations we put on ourselves. I think that's what it comes down to. I think because I think here's the thing, we have this. I hate the American dream. I hate it because
it's a nothing statement. It's a nothing statement.
Yeah, it's a nothing statement, number one. But number two, this idea does not exist anymore. It really doesn't. But the reality of the situation is that expectation. You go into it's not just America, it's Canada too. You go into any town, any place, there's a certain expectation of what kind of a role you're going to play. Now, it's not necessarily quite the same thing in Canada, United States, but there's still expectations there.
Yeah.
Those expectations we rebel against. We just do. As human beings, if we are put into, you are expected to be this. Look, you are expected to be this. A Mormon community I lived in, you are expected to be a good Mormon. You're supposed to do this role, fill this thing. So that what happens, these kids that do not fit this mold, sooner or later they leave or rebel.
Yeah.
That's just that's human nature. It's not rocket science. It's just like this is gonna happen because this is perfect, like human nature.
Human beings do.
Yeah. So and same thing with porn. Right. I mean, porn. That's why porn. The reason why porn sells is it's forbidden. It's dirty. It tells. It's what you're not supposed to know.
But funnily enough, the thing that they're creating is the same reason that we're all here.
Yeah, exactly.
They're using it for recreation, of course.
Yeah.
But the taboo thing is a thing that everybody's parents that are sitting, that are here now have done to be able to produce the person that is saying that it is wrong or evil or temptation.
But I mean, but if you make it evil, dirty, and mysterious, it creates an allure. And that's why alcohol, cigarettes, or vapes, right, all that stuff. Whereas if you just make it normal, right, people are going to get laid, people are going to drink, people are going to smoke, people are going to do whatever it is they're going to do,
whatever they want.
Right. Here's what happens. People do less of that shit. Not more. They do less. I will still go to a bar and have a drink, but all I'm going to do is have a drink. That's it. I don't need anything more. Right. And there are people, and don't get me wrong, there are people that would still do there are still people, and they might have an alcoholism issue. But if you eliminate the pressures, the expectations, and this idea of what we're supposed to be, and just let people be whoever they want to be, suddenly this would now. Is it perfect? No. But what you've done is you've eliminated the expectation of perfection. Now people are okay being themselves. Now again, we're still growing. We still have to change. We still, Lord knows, grade A fuck up right here. I admit it, right? But the thing is, I don't have this pressure of living up to a standard that's not real. And all of us have to, on some level, do this. Again, it's different for everybody a little bit, it looks like, but we all do it, and that's why we all drink.
Yeah, it's exactly what we're talking about. That prohibition on anything never works. If any vice that you may have, as long as you're not hurting anybody else, put regulations on it. Like you can't drink and drive. You can't do coke and then go. Drink, you can drive, you know what I mean, or whatever it is. So there has to always be regulations on it. Of course, to keep people safe and full extent of law. My brother and I would have this conversation. He goes, "What if somebody does a whole bunch of cocaine and gets behind the wheel?" And my answer is, "What if somebody drinks a 12-pack of beer and gets behind the wheel?" The full extent of the law. And they understand, they're adults. If they pass their little test and got their little name on their card, they should know that that's not a good decision. So, and I do understand people will say, well, people won't make good choices. I think most people would. I think most people will, like you said, once it becomes not prohibited, the allure is taken away.
The chunk of it anyway.
Is taken away. While they still may do it, they won't fight to do it as much. It'll just be something that they do every once in a while. Great. Do your thing. Don't hurt anybody. Do your thing.
But if you did that, though, would Coors exist? Would Labatt exist? would these companies exist as they are? And that's the other thing.
Probably not.
Probably not.
Mhm.
Right. So this is the this is the
Oh, and also, I'm sorry, tax the crap out of it. Whatever the vice is, tax the crap out of it. That way,
I'm 50-50 on that one.
yeah,
I'm 50-50 on that one because this is kind of how I feel. We all have vices, right?
Mhm.
I think you're still sending the same message that ultimately that you're going after the pocketbook. Now, some things aren't cheap anyway, right? So I kind of look at it like this. I don't necessarily think this might also be an unpopular opinion, but this is mine. I don't necessarily think that the government should be making money off my vices.
Oh yeah.
You're right.
That's funny because I would think those vices, they're vices because we don't have to do them, we want to do them. That should be the thing that the government is taxing.
But they already are.
But I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, no, but they are. See, I see it up here in Canada. Alcohol is supremely taxed up here, right? Yeah. And what I again, I think, like I said, we go after the things that going after those things. Yeah, I mean, government. Hey, listen, government will make money off anything. I think one of the most hypocritical things about governments. Hey, kids, don't do drugs unless they're pharmaceuticals, or we make money off them. That's very much.
Yeah.
I think, like I said, I don't necessarily think, and this might be the thing. I don't necessarily think a government's goal should be to make money on anything. I think if you eliminate that financial incentive to make money, especially in your country, prison system would be a lot better if there wasn't a financial incentive in it.
I 100% agree. Here's the issue though, and I'll equate it to schools. People often talk about how much money schools cost. Right? Schools are not and I've heard administrators, we're trying to save money so we can make money. And my answer is, but we're not in the business of making money. We're in the business of spending money to make students, to make human beings that can problem solve and critical think and be members of society. I don't think it's a government's job to make money. I think it's a government's job to wisely spend the money that they get from us, from taxes, to be able to make life easier not easier, that's the wrong word, make life. Okay, I'll use easier. Why not? To make life easier for the whole base of the population on some level.
I'm going to throw this. I'm going to throw it like this.
Curveball. Let's see it.
The word you're looking for is investment. That's
investment in children, investment in our own infrastructure or our own healthcare.
I want you to hear the difference in that word. Because that's, I think the mistake a lot of people make, like, we're spending money on these things. Yes, we are. We're spending money on roads because I don't know about you. I've seen some roads in the United States where they're more hole than road. That's not a fun trip. That's not a fun trip on anybody. It wrecks it wrecks your car, it wrecks gas. Your insurance companies are probably, like, creaming in their pants a little bit, the money they made just to damage your car going down that stupid little crazy highway. But it's not really good for anybody.
No.
Right? It's dangerous. That's why you put that. So you invest in roads. Why? So that doesn't happen. You invest in schools. Why? You're investing in people. If you're going to change the future for the better, if you want your kids and their kids and their kids to have a better life than what you had, the correct answer is you invest in your
100%.
kids. Right?
100%.
That's but again, now it doesn't matter how much money you spend. Right.
And that's the thing with people can't see past their own nose. They just see the spending of the money. They don't see the outcome of the spending of the money.
But the thing is, even how you said it, and it's something you got to think about too. You didn't go with the word investment at the very beginning. You went spending money. You fed into what they're thinking. You fed into that. That's not what you should be saying. What you should be saying is what it actually is. It's an investment. You are investing. You're investing in your future because you are. That's what you should be doing. You shouldn't be you should not be looking at those things as spending. You should be looking at them as investments.
Yeah.
Right? Do you 100%. Right now in basic infrastructure, schooling, some degree of welfare system, Although again, there's a fine line with that, but 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 even then, right? You eliminate profit. You eliminate it especially from your prison system, but also, right? R&D. This one, that one might be the biggest obstacle to change the world. But I mean, these are the things you got to look at. It's not that people, again, people get caught into the jargon of spending money or this or this or that. No, poor people don't save anything. Middle class people worry about saving money.
Yeah.
Rich people worry about investing money.
Yeah.
There's a difference. You want to make everybody just start thinking more like they're rich in the sense that everything you're investing in, you will get a payoff on.
Yeah.
All right. And whether the payoff is a critical thinking, young adult that actually sees the world hopefully better than you did because we were smarter. Fingers crossed. Right. 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 Fingers crossed. Right. But that's it. Like that is the crux of the matter. It's not. We got to stop looking at good things as things to splurge on, and we got to stop exploiting people.
100%.
Right. Whatever they choose to do in this life, right? And that's it. Now, and folks, if you're saying I'm for bankrupting the government. Kind of, but more like this. You should no government should ever be looking at their system as a money-making enterprise.
Never,
because once governments start looking at their system as money-making enterprises, it is no longer about an investment in service of people. It is about the bottom line. And then once that happens, you create nightmares.
The post office is a great example of that. People were trying to get rid of the post office a couple of years back because it cost a lot of money, but it's an investment in us being able to communicate with each other. Now, will maybe that system be obsolete in the next 20 years, 25, whatever years? Okay, yeah, but we don't slash and cut everything. We meet people where they're at. We meet the system where it's at to be able to continue to have a service like that or whatever it is, but to be able to continue to invest in people being able to communicate and send things through the mail. I don't think that service will 100% die in the next 100 years.
I only know completely die. Period. It'll evolve like everything. Everything else evolves.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So I mean, we could. So, Mr. Dave, I think I can say this with all honesty and sincerity. I missed you, man.
Yeah, I miss you too. We always have good conversations. I really enjoy them.
Yes. But I will say this. Congrats on your 20th issue. That's actually that's a huge accomplishment, my friend. You should be very proud.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm pretty proud. I think they're coming out really, really good, and visually, it's really starting to. You know how the first season you're always kind of finding where you're going, and now I think that the train is just rolling full steam ahead on the tracks, and I hope that people pick it up and enjoy it.
So I'm going to ask this one final question, then this for this because you just mentioned this. You found your voice. So is it more fun now?
It's always been fun. Like even when even at the beginning with all the hardships and trials and tribulations of creating it for the first time and not knowing what I'm doing, that was still fun because I knew that I was, like we said, learning and growing and getting better at it. But now I'll definitely say that the level of confidence that I have gives me the ability to be able to, and the story is always progressing in my brain. So the story that I thought I had 5 years ago ready to go, now I'm thinking, oh wait, let me try this with this 2-issue story. It really has given me a chance to be able to branch out and spread my wings a little bit, to be able to do different things in the confines of the overall story that I think people will like if they give it a shot, and I hope more people want to give it a shot and pick it up.
So for the record, what is your website to find your stuff?
correcthandedcomics.com. You can find links to every book I've ever produced. I even have a novel on there that I did, a Western. I'm working on my second novel right now. So we're it's any kind of or any kind of genre you want. I've got probably something for you there, whether it's a one-shot or 4-issue miniseries, a 100-page graphic novel, or 20 pages or 20 issues of The Offspring. Give it a shot. I think you'll like it.
All right, and that's where people can find you too.
Mhm.
All right. On that note, Mr. David, before we wrap up, those watching, those listening, this is my advertising services page. If you want videos, audios, words, and pictures about your projects or yourselves, I will create assets for you so you can advertise anywhere, including my own. So, my own platforms, ladies and gentlemen. So, if you want information, definitely check out the website there. And that will do it for, I'm sure we're going to be talking a few minutes off the air, but that all said, this is David Whalen. I always love having him on the show. He's a fun guest. Like I said, we talk about a lot of different things, and it's always cool, right?
Josh, it's always great to be on the show. Thank you so much. I think we always fix the world in our little hour and a half conversations.
Or longer, yes. On that note, folks, that'll do it for the day for the special Independence Day. Have a happy holiday for the rest of your day. Stay inspired, keep shining in the dark, and I will be back tomorrow.